मेरा सभी प्रतिभागियों से निवेदन है कि कृपया जल्दी से अपने स्थान ग्रहण कर लीजिए। हम सेशन स्टार्ट करने जा रहे हैं, कृपया।
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Piyush Kamal, Assistant Professor, Educational Survey Division, NCRT, and alongside me is
डॉक्टर गिरिजा रावत, असिस्टेंट प्रोफेसर, एजुकेशनल सर्वे डिवीज़न, NCERT।
and we warmly welcome you to the panel discussion on equivalence of curriculum and assessment across all school boards on the occasion of 4th anniversary celebration of National Education Policy 2020.
हमें बताते हुए बहुत गर्व महसूस हो रहा है। आज हमारे इस कार्यक्रम में उपस्थित हैं कार्यक्रम के मुख्य अतिथि श्री आनंद राव वी पाटिल जी, अपर सचिव स्कूल शिक्षा एवं साक्षरता विभाग, शिक्षा मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार। श्रीमती असानो सेखोस, अध्यक्ष नागालैंड बोर्ड ऑफ स्कूल एजुकेशन, नागालैंड। डॉक्टर जोनस बटलिंग, प्रोग्राम लीड, एजुकेशन टेस्टिंग सर्विस, प्रिंसटन, अमेरिका। डॉक्टर VP यादव, अध्यक्ष हरियाणा बोर्ड ऑफ स्कूल एजुकेशन, हरियाणा। श्री राहुल सिंह, अध्यक्ष CBSE, नई दिल्ली। NCERT के निदेशक महोदय प्रोफेसर दिनेश प्रसाद सकलानी जी, विभिन्न राज्य बोर्ड के सभी सम्मानित अध्यक्ष, समस्त SCERT निदेशक और हमारे साथ उपस्थित सभी विशेषज्ञ, कृपया सभी अतिथियों का जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करें। अब मैं प्रोफेसर इंद्राणी भादुड़ी मैम से विनम्र निवेदन करती हूँ कि वे CBSE के अध्यक्ष श्री राहुल सिंह जी को शॉल पहनाकर सम्मानित करें। इसके साथ साथ मैं सर से निवेदन करती हूँ कि कृपया मंच में अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। मैं
May I request VP Yadav sir to come and join on the stage and take your seats, and
मैं श्रीमती असानो सेखोस मैम से दरख्वास्त करती हूँ कि वो मंच में आकर अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। मैं साथ में जी
may I request Dr. Jonas Butling to come up on the stage and join us on the stage and take your seat. Already you are seated. Okay.
अब मैं प्रोफेसर इंद्राणी भादुड़ी मैम से विनम्र निवेदन करती हूँ कि वे CBSE के अध्यक्ष श्री राहुल सिंह जी को शॉल पहनाकर और हरित पादप देकर सम्मानित करें।
और भी दे रहे हैं, उसके बाद VP यादव जी को करना है ना। Now I request Professor Indrani Bhaduri ma'am to kindly facilitate Chairman of Haryana Board of School Education, Dr. VP Yadav ji, by giving a sapling and shawl. आसानी से
इसी क्रम में अब मैं प्रोफेसर भादुड़ी मैम को पुनः आग्रह करती हूँ कि वे नागालैंड बोर्ड ऑफ स्कूल एजुकेशन की अध्यक्ष श्रीमती असानो सेखोस को हरित पादप देकर और शॉल पहनाकर स्वागत करें। आपकी बारी।
Now I request the ma'am to kindly come forward for the felicitation of the program lead at Education Testing Service, Princeton, USA, Dr. Jonas Butling, to giving a sapling. To begin our program, we would like to invite Shri Anand Rao V. Patil ji to give the opening remark. Okay.
अब मैं प्रोफेसर भादुड़ी मैम से पुनः निवेदन करती हूँ कि वो श्री आनंद राव पाटिल सर को शॉल पहनाकर और हरित पादप देकर सम्मानित करें। धन्यवाद मैम। हमारे कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हुए हम माननीय श्री आनंद राव वी पाटिल जी को आरंभिक संबोधन और आज के कार्यक्रम का संक्षिप्त विवरण देने के लिए मंच में सादर आमंत्रित करते हैं। आप 1998 बैच के तमिलनाडु केडर के आईएएस अधिकारी हैं। आपने जिला कलेक्टर, निगम आयुक्त, विभिन्न बोर्ड के प्रबंध निदेशक, माननीय तमिलनाडु के राज्यपाल के प्रधान सचिव, वित्त मंत्रालय, भारत सरकार में संयुक्त सचिव के रूप में अपनी सेवाएं दी हैं। आप सरकारी बैंक के बोर्डों में भी अपनी सेवाएं दे चुके हैं। वर्तमान में आप कुछ अन्य कार्यों की भी देखरेख कर रहे हैं, जिनमें परख और भारत के समस्त स्कूल बोर्ड, पीएम पोषण, डिजिटल शिक्षा जिसके अंतर्गत दीक्षा पोर्टल, पीएम ई विद्या और विद्या समीक्षा केंद्र हैं, छात्रों का स्वास्थ्य और मानसिक कल्याण, प्रतिभाशाली बच्चों के लिए ध्रुव योजना। कृपया जोरदार तालियों से सर का स्वागत करें।
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. I think the lunch is a little heavy. My panelist, Shri Rahul Singh, CBSE Chairman, Haryana Board Chairman Shri Yadav ji, Nagaland Sasiko ji ma'am, and ETS representative Jonas Butling, our secretary, respected secretary Sanjay Kumar sir, NCRT Chairman Sri Saklani ji, representative of various state boards, and the main is this representatives from the school, the HMs, the teachers. Good afternoon to all of you. I am very happy that many of you are here for this very important session. The equivalence of curriculum and assessment across all boards is very, very important issue, very important topic, and NEP has given a very important, big importance to this topic. The Indian education landscape, if you see, it is a little bit fragmented. There are some inconsistencies, and right now we are using the traditional assessments. The boards like CBSE started new competency-based assessments. I am hearing from the various states that they also started initiating with say 10%, 20% competency-based assessments. So today we are discussing what is happening with the various state boards as well as what is the way forward. Transforming assessment for optimizing learning and development. This assessment must be regular, formative and competency based. Promote learning and development of student. Focus on assessment for learning and assessment as learning. Test higher order skills such as analysis, critical thinking and conceptual clarity. Online examinations, computer based assessments, AI based online proctoring and adaptive testings are some of the avenues where technology can be used. National Education Policy, today we are celebrating 4th year. This envisages this Parak, and Parak has taken a lot of initiatives. Competency-based assessments emphasizes a shift towards the CBA that evaluates not just knowledge, also the development of essential skills and growth. Parak is basically performance assessment review and knowledge for holistic development, and it is a body with the NCRT under this ministry. It's a standard setting under the Ministry of Education. प्रेजेंटेशन के थोड़ा ये कर देना, छोटा कर दे इसका, बाहर जा रहा है देखो पूरा गोइंग आउट। बाहर जा रहा है इसमें से। The basic objective of this panel discussion is developing synergies, equivalence among boards, new assessment methods. The panel discussion seeks to encourage collaboration among the stakeholders like PARAK, NCRT, the various SCRTs, state school education departments, state governments, state examination boards to implement national education policy. The panel also will explore strategies for designing assessment frameworks with shared standards for defining competencies, setting rubrics, and utilizing best practices to ensure equivalence among school boards. The new assessment methods will be discussed here is the adoption of innovative assessment tools that encourage competency-based learning, including methods aligned with the National Credit Framework and the Academic Bank of Credit. Again, the objective of this panel discussion is technological integration, which is really important over the traditional assessments. So, using technology integration, fairness is very important. Utilizing technology to improve fairness, track student performance, and enhance transparency and security of student records. 21st century skills, exploring methods for utilizing technology to create effective assessment methods for the 21st century. Transparency is ensuring transparency and security of student records through technological integration. Again, futuristic visualization is there. So, globalized world, PARAK's call for equivalence among school boards helps to prepare our students for future workforce for a more globalized world. National benchmarking, it will facilitate national benchmarking and international comparability with an ethical and responsible use of technology, fulfilling the vision of developed India. These are the focus areas, mainly this concept of equalization of curriculum and assessment across the state boards. Second point is this collaboration with various state boards and assessment experts. We have more than 65 state boards in India. Strategies to achieve curriculum and assessment equivalence across the state boards. Establishing academic equivalence among different state boards. Role of digital platform in assessment process. Policy alignment and advocacy for National Education Policy 2020. Insights on international perspective on equivalence. So one of the experts will be talking about that. What we expect is the collaborative action plan, inclusive approach, curriculum for holistic development. Again, technological solutions we seek this digital education will get the prime the importance. Digital assessments will start. Use of artificial intelligence will be there, and innovative tools, technological tools, as well as 21st century skill competencies. Again, expected outcomes is the international alignments and informed decisions. Equivalence in curriculum ensures uniform standards. Equivalence in curriculum across the state boards will guarantee consistent education quality, promoting fairness and equal opportunities nationwide. It will facilitate mobility of the students. Equivalent curricula allow seamless transition for students moving between the states, ensuring uninterrupted education for frequently relocating families. It will enhance the competitiveness. It will promote national integration. It will support policy implementation. The equivalence in assessment will help the boards to function as a state school standard authorities, SSSA. The boards to recognize and give appellation to the schools, sensitization of the school boards on equivalence, preparing a cadre of paper setter by the school boards, preparing a competency-based assessment question bank, bringing transparency to the examination system. This is what the minister expects. Again, the technological, the digital assessment for the transparency in conducting state board examinations. We expect that online examination will be conducted. Blockchain technology will be utilized for ensuring the data integrity and preventing tampering. Biometric verification will be utilized for introducing biometric students appearing for the exams to prevent impersonation and ensure the authenticity of the examinees. With these words, I open this panel discussion to the panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful opening remark. Moving forward to the presentation of our panelists, we invite Ms. Asano Sekhose, Chairperson of Nagaland Board of School Education, Kohima. She is in the process of examination reform 2024 as part of the Nagaland Education Project funded by the World Bank. She introduced competency-based question with effect from 2023 to modernize and enhance assessment practices aligned to NEP 2020. She launched financial management courses in higher secondary level in 2014 and financial literacy course for grade 9 from 2016 in collaboration with the Stock Exchange of India Limited. She has also served as Controller of Examination and Secretary at Nagaland Board of School Education. She is presenting on establishing academic equivalence among diverse education boards. Please welcome her for the presentation with a round of applause.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Respected Secretary, Department of School Education, respected Additional Secretary, distinguished panelists, dignitaries, eminent educationists from across the country. Thank you, Additional Secretary, for setting the context on equivalence of curriculum assessment across school boards. This one? Okay. Establishing academic equivalence across boards is vital to promote educational equity, quality, and fulfill the goals of education as envisioned in the NEP 2020. More so, as envisioned in the NEP 2020, I believe all the boards across the country, now we are trying our level best to bring about changes in our classroom teaching learning process so that our schools, our teachers moved away from teaching just knowledge, but then they teach as to develop the competencies, the abilities, the critical thinking skills of our children. And at this juncture, it is very important for us to discuss about establishing academic equivalence across diverse education boards. In principle, school boards across the country follow the national curriculum framework. However, the curriculum, syllabus, textbooks may vary from board to board depending on the state curriculum framework. Boards in the country give reciprocal recognition to certificates of each other. At present, there are 60 plus boards and councils in the country, which also includes madrasa, open school, Sanskrit boards, etc., besides the secondary boards and higher secondary councils. Across these bodies, the academic standards in terms of contents may vary from one another. Today, the things that are my points are mostly like the challenges we are facing at the moment, and also like some of the things that I wanted to share are in the form of suggestive points, where if we do these things, where I feel that we can bring about equivalence of academic across the state boards. Due to variations in course contents across boards, the level of competency among the students may differ. The same level of certification and the standard of education may also differ from board to board. To bridge these gaps, under Parag, a lot of exercises are being taken to study the best practices of the boards since its establishment. It is important that there is parity across boards so that the students get maximum advantage in pursuing higher studies, and they can fit into the entrance exams with the syllabus of the state boards, with the textbook of the state boards. And so for pursuing higher education, parity is the need of the hour. Number of subjects, weightage of marks, pass criteria for the different subjects should also have similarity so that the transition of students from board to board can be seamlessly ensured. In order to achieve academic equivalence, every board should first have a strong academic cell. A framework for preparation of curriculum and robust course content should be prepared and shared with the boards to ensure quality and parity across boards. This will help the boards to adopt the best practices on curriculum development, preparation of textbooks, and other study materials framed by other study materials framed by NCERT should be followed by all boards to achieve equivalence. Uniform textbooks published by NCERT in all major subjects to be prescribed as far as possible by all the boards. Quality of teachers, empowering the teachers with required guidelines. Skill upgradation is the need of the hour to transform the classroom teaching learning process. In-service training cell should be set up by the boards to facilitate upscaling the professional skills of the teachers. Curriculum-specific training is a requirement every board should give to its affiliated school teachers. Boards may also collaborate with teacher education colleges or universities, in building the capacity of their teachers. Syllabus in all major subjects be based on the mainframe curriculum provided by the NCERT. Uniform sample question papers in all major subjects be prepared and provided to each board by Parag. The board may adapt the same as per the requirement. Design of question papers, sample questions, and marking schemes, especially for class 9 to 12, to be provided by all boards to Parag to review so that the feedbacks can be given to the respective boards. Best practices, innovative practices prevalent in different boards must be shared among the boards for adaptation appropriately. I believe once the above steps are implemented, this would ensure equivalence of academic standards among learners across all the school boards. There should be a strong collaboration among education boards to ensure equivalence of academic standards. The standardization of education system, comparative assessment will surely bring out equivalence across boards. Here, Parag can play a big role by guiding the boards to achieve academic equivalence. In order to ensure proper implementation of the above steps, efforts be made to organize meetings with the senior functionaries of all the boards at least twice a year for a period of 2 to 3 years, or this is something like it can be done regularly. That will be of great help to the boards, I feel. So these are some of the points that I wanted to share on the topic establishing academic equivalence across diverse education boards. And my sincere request here is all boards across the country should come together and work together in achieving academic equivalence and prepare the students to succeed in this evolving world. Thank you.
धन्यवाद मैम इस उत्कृष्ट प्रस्तुति के लिए। अब मैं एजुकेशन टेस्टिंग सर्विस प्रिंसटन यूएसए के प्रोग्राम लीड डॉक्टर जोनस बटलिंग को प्रस्तुति के लिए आमंत्रित करना चाहती हूँ। आप प्रिंसटन यूएस में ईटीएस रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट के निदेशक हैं। आपने मनोविज्ञान विषय में पीएचडी की है। आपके पास बड़े पैमाने पर मूल्यांकन के क्षेत्र में 12 से अधिक वर्षों का नेतृत्व अनुभव है, जिसमें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय छात्र मूल्यांकन कार्यक्रम पीसा और संयुक्त राज्य अमेरिका में राष्ट्रीय शैक्षिक प्रगति मूल्यांकन NAEP शामिल हैं। आप पीसा 2018 वेलबींग फ्रेमवर्क 2022 प्रश्नावली फ्रेमवर्क के प्रमुख लेखक रहे हैं। आप पीसा 2025 प्रश्नावली समूह के अंतर्राष्ट्रीय विशेषज्ञ भी हैं। वर्तमान में आप परख के लिए अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कार्यक्रम प्रमुख के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। आप शैक्षणिक समानता के विषय में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय दृष्टिकोण पर जानकारी साझा करेंगे। कृपया प्रस्तुति के लिए डॉक्टर जोनस सर का जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करें। सर प्लीज़।
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be here, and I want to express my sincere thanks to everyone who is here and who invited me to speak to this distinguished audience in the wonderful country India. I've been 7 times to India over the last 1.5 years, and I've really came to love the people, the food, the country, and I'm very happy to be here and talk about the equivalence in education. Special thanks to the hosts of this meeting, the secretary, the additional secretary, Professor Indrani, Professor Zaklani, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm Jonas Bertling. I'm the program lead for Parag at Educational Testing Service in Princeton, New Jersey, and I will talk about the insights on international perspectives on equivalence. I will draw on some of my own experiences and give some examples from Germany, which is the country where I grew up, and the US, where I've been living for the last 14 years, as well as internationally looking at large-scale assessments and other international efforts. Why are education systems thriving for equivalence? We have just heard from the previous speaker about the challenges of bringing equivalence to a very diverse set of school boards, a diverse set of districts, of schools that have very distinct needs. And I believe that education systems are thriving for equivalence to track and compare how much progress towards key goals the system, the subsystem, and individual learners are making. So it's both about the individual learner to be able to compare what they learned in one state or one country to what other students in another state or another country learn, but also for the policymakers in each country or state or school board to see how much progress they are making to a set of shared goals. Equivalence has many facets. And one way to think about the different facets that we could look at is this model, the SIPO model, which has been used for several decades now in the international large-scale assessment field. Here, educational outputs are described as a function of inputs as well as contexts and processes. Processes can be at the system level, the school level, or the classroom level. So looking at this model can help look at what element of equivalence you're looking at. Are you looking at the equivalence of curriculum? Are you looking at the equivalence of the processes implemented in the schools? Are you looking at equivalence of the learning contexts, such as like the technological setup that students have in their schools or in their communities? Or are you looking at equivalence of outputs? Do kids achieve similar levels in reading, mathematics, science, social sciences, and other key subjects? Equivalence also is a journey. And I believe with every journey, it's important to see where we are and where we want to go. And with this equivalence journey, one of the goals is to quantify the gap and then identify specific policies, how we can close the gap between where we want to be and where we are. I'm going to talk a little bit now about how we can determine where we want to be and what that process usually entails. We have already heard about the importance of frameworks that the previous speaker also alluded to. I really want to double down on this and say conceptual frameworks are a key compass that gives us the idea where do we want to be. Conceptual frameworks describe the types of abilities, the skills, the competencies that students should learn to succeed in today's and in tomorrow's world. There's also a range of professional standards, curricular goals that help to define where the system wants to go. And in this process, stakeholder engagement is very, very important, because where we want to go means where we want to go together as a community, as a board, as a state, as a country, or as a global education community. Finding that common denominator is very important, and that's not possible without the input of key stakeholders. Where we are is an interesting question that is hard to address if we don't have solid data to base this assessment on. And that's why I really believe that assessments, both qualitative and quantitative, are key to assessing where we are key to also conveying to educators in the field, to policymakers, to students, to teachers, what is important. What is important, and we're measuring what is important through these assessments, as well as through questionnaires, through focus groups, through discussions, and again, stakeholder engagement. And if we have those two pillars worked out, where do we want to be? Where are we now? We can think about the way. And I believe that there's more than one way to get from where we are to where we want to be. And to illustrate this, I want to start with a case study from Germany. In Germany, we have 16 federal states with their own education authorities, somewhat similar to how the situation in India looks. What's a little different to India or the US or other countries is that most schools are government schools, so there's a very, very small proportion of private schools. And all of the standards are made by a standing conference for the ministers of Education and Cultural Affairs, also known as the Kultusministerkonferenz, KMK. And this Kultusministerkonferenz has released educational standards, the Bildungsstandards, which describe for each subject area and each grade what students should accomplish, what competencies students should have accomplished at the end of each of these stages. And you see on the right here, in the right image, you see a map from one of the recent assessments targeting the tracking of the Bildungsstandards, which federal states fare better, which federal states still have some journey to go to meet those standards. One attempt is also the introduction of a central high school exam. And what that means is that states have adopted a process where high school exams are made more comparable, with the idea that there will be more equivalence across the results when students finish their degree in one federal state or in another federal state. And Germany has been participating since the 2000 cycle in PISA. Germany is participating in other large-scale assessments, and we have our own large-scale assessments and surveys in the country, both qualitative through surveys where school leaders are being asked about their practices and their experiences, as well as quantitative focus on achievement at the various grades throughout the system. Let me focus also on the United States here. So in the United States, education is also regulated at the state level, and there's a broad mix of private and government schools. The US has approximately 13,000 independent school boards. So each school district has their own independent school board, and there's around 94,000 school board members across all of the United States. So now imagine how difficult it is to bring everybody on the same page and to align all of these school boards on curriculum, on practices. One challenge in the US particularly is that different school districts are funded very differently because education is funded at the local level. We have some districts that have a lot of funds and other districts that have only very little funds. So that's one of the challenges specifically that I noticed through my time that I've lived in the United States. Because of this broad variety of very diverse systems, more than 30 years ago, the US government has decided to start this program called NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is really the US version of the Indian National Achievement Survey. And here the idea was to design independent framework in a bipartisan way with different members of society being part of these frameworks, and then assess across all states what students know and can do according to these NAEP frameworks. Later, in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s, the Common Core standards were added, which are a consistent framework that all states committed to what students should learn at certain years in the education system. And two consortia, PARC and Smarter Balance, have been created to design state assessments that are used across all of these different states. Because the US does not have a central high school exam similar to what Germany or other countries have, those standardized tests like the SAT, ACT, or other AP tests play an important role as well to establish equivalence across learning outcomes once students start the secondary education phase. A few words here also on the international perspective, on global comparisons. If you think about the world and all countries strive for education. We know that education is an important goal in bringing the economy of a country forward. And so the participation in these studies can give countries important data where they stand in the global community and what instructional practices work better and lead to better outcomes, or what instructional practices might be associated with less desirable outcomes. The most important large-scale assessments, I've listed a few here: the Trends in Mathematics and Science Study, the Progress in International Reading Literacy Study, PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment, PIAC, the Program for International Assessment of Adult Competencies, as well as PISA for Schools, and the PISA for vocational education and training. The latter is a program, a new program that the OECD is currently working on that hasn't been implemented yet. And I want to hone in again on the point, where do we want to be? The frameworks that are set to create international benchmarks are really, really important here. And one important thing to note is that the frameworks in PISA are all competency-based. So the types of tasks that students do are simulations, are scenario-based tasks. Now everything is computerized, so there's a lot of interactivity in these assessments. And through these assessments, data can also be collected to inform where countries stand regarding the UN Sustainable Development Goals, regarding minimum levels of literacy and numeracy. Across these studies, what is also a common denominator is that there's a strong focus on contextual learning outcomes. And I think especially to the undertaking that this group has in front of us, with looking at the learning context, looking at the different practices in different areas, in different boards, it's very important to look at these contextual factors and shed light on the three components in the SIPO model: the input, the processes, and the context. India is on a very exciting journey, as I mentioned in the beginning. I'm very excited about being part of this journey, being able to learn from you all on this journey. And I'm very kind of excited to see that there is a lot of information out there already in India, where India wants to be and where India currently stands. Not to mention only the National Education Policy 2020, the National Curriculum Framework, where all competencies are defined that students should have at certain grades. And I know that Professor Indrani and her team are working very hard to develop the PARAG equivalence guidelines. There is data coming through the National Achievement Survey, the State Education Assessment, the Foundational Learning Study, and over the last year, the holistic progress cards have been developed by PARAG that also give a nice complement to all these summative large-scale assessments and gives educators tools to work with in the classrooms, all aligned with the National Curriculum Framework and the NEP. With that, I want to end and really highlight three main things: embrace differences, use data, and succeed together. Equivalence is about finding common denominators, not about making everyone the same. So that means that equivalence discussions need to acknowledge and respect local differences. And I think that's what the international programs show, where even though we have more than 20 years, for example, of PISA, educational systems still compete about the best way how to do things. There are shared goals, but not every system is or should be the same. And we know that countries are different in terms of the access to technology, in terms of the cultural values, in terms of the valuing of different subject areas over other subject areas. And I think that needs to be retained. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. I also think it's really important that we involve stakeholders. And again, that's why I'm so excited that all of you are part of this journey. And what I've seen so far during my time in India is really an exemplary process of involving stakeholders every step in the way. And that's important so that the common goals can be embraced by the community and everybody strives for those common goals. Last but not least, I really want to highlight again the importance of data, because only if we collect data can we know where we stand and can we quantify the gaps to where we want to be. And I'm really excited to be part of this education conversation. And with that, I want to thank you. And I look forward to your questions during the panel discussion, and I have my contact details here in case you want to reach out after this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your experience-based, thoughtful presentation. Next, I invite Dr. V.P. Yadavji, Chairman of the Haryana Board of School Education. He introduced alphanumeric and QR codes in the question papers and stopped leakage of question papers. He received the prestigious national level gold category SKOCH Scotch Award. He spearheaded digital education with introduction of artificial intelligence. He is specializes in accreditation of schools from Quality Council of India. He mentored SCRT Haryana in developing school quality assessment and accreditation standards. He also introduced board reforms in the domain of administration, pedagogy, technology, operations, processes, infrastructure, and trainings. He will discuss the role of digital platforms in the assessment of answer scripts, a step towards equivalence, emphasizing the integration of technology in educational assessment. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
It's okay. A very good afternoon to everyone. I take this privilege of presenting the thoughts on specifically digital evaluation in equivalence of boards. I feel privileged that I am giving a presentation in presence of Sanjay Kumar Singh ji. We have Mr. Anand Patil ji, Vipin Kumar ji, Rahul Singh ji, Mr. Jonas Butling, and Asano Shikosi ji, who was always with there in the boards and had a long interaction and lot many things we did in an NCRT with Parak, which is Indrani Badruji. The most important, I'd like to share something very practically that we have been doing in Board of School Education Haryana and how it is going to help in equivalence of board across the country. That is an important aspect. So the first and the most thing is when we go for digital evaluation, what is the benefit to the evaluator or the student who are evaluating and how it sets standards across the boards in the country in the evaluation system. The first and the foremost thing is that most of the boards will agree that while checking the answer sheets or answer scripts, when the totaling of mark it comes, maximum mistakes are created or are made by the teachers. Let me tell you, when we prior to having manual marking and after introduction of digital marking, we saw the difference. And you'll be surprised to know that as compared to manual marking, when digital marking was done, the students applying for re-evaluation of answer script dropped down by 60%, which it shows that digital marking was highly effective because there is an automatic totaling of marks. और कई बार तो क्या होता था कि teachers, we all know teachers very well, we are here, but though all are not the same, I was told when I went with evaluation center, one of the center head was told me कि सर क्या होता है कि पहले जो फर्स्ट पेज पे कॉलम्स बने हैं कि क्वेश्चन और मार्क्स लगाते हैं, कुछ टीचर तो पहले ही मार्क्स भर देते थे और बाद में क्वेश्चन आंसर शीट को चेक करते थे. तो ऐसे भी महारथी हमारे यहाँ मौजूद हैं. तो दैट विल डन. Then number of problems that came is if there is a page left unchecked, this was done. Let me tell you, every child knows कि मेरे कितने नंबर आने वाले हैं. He goes and makes a calculation at home, and that's why when it doesn't come to near his expectation, he applies for re-evaluation. So we found that in digital evaluation, if a teacher lacks or leaves any page unchecked, automatically the system will alert the teacher, you have let page number so and so unchecked. There will be no final submission. So this problem is addressed. Another thing was that sometimes it so happens that the maximum marks limit for a question, suppose it is 3 marks. Teacher is not aware, उसने 4 number दे दिए, 5 number दे दिए. What will happen is automatically the system will stop the teachers. No, you are exceeding your marks limit. So these are some of the human errors that come with. Then we have set up a stepwise marking, whether in science, or it is mathematics, teacher will go for giving stepwise marks. And there will be value points in specifically descriptive answers. So exactly there will be a uniform evaluation across for all the students. So this is the beauty of digital evaluation. Sometime it so happened is that teachers are checking up manually. When it was done, we had 4 question codes. You must be knowing that A, B, C, D नाम के 4 code आते हैं. Sometimes the teacher takes a 1 code, उसे पता ही नहीं है A कोड ले रहा है या B कोड ले रहा है या C कोड ले रहा है, वो चेक करता चला जाता है. In digital evaluation, the teacher will select the code on the screen और उसी कोड की क्वेश्चन पेपर्स या आंसर शीट्स आएंगे उसके पास. So teacher is totally free now. He is checking only one type of a code that he has selected. Then what action is, when all is done, when we declare results, it so happens that later on for us, it's very easy to retrieve the answer sheets when they apply for re-evaluation. Otherwise it so happens कि आज बच्चे ने रिवोल्यूशन के लिए बताया और उसने अपने आंसर शीट्स मांगी, हम फिर उसको स्कैन करके भेजते हैं. इट टेक्स अ लॉन्ग टाइम. अनदर थिंग इज देर आर रिपीटेशन ऑफ आंसर. चिल्ड्रन आर वेरी स्मार्ट. व्हाट दे विल डू, एक क्वेश्चन नंबर इधर आंसर किया उसका, सेम क्वेश्चन he will repeat on the after 3 or 4 pages and says that he expects the teacher would give him marks there also. But digital evaluation will not allow it. It will tell the teacher that is over attempt or this answer has been repeated, please remove it. So when all the boards will start doing, it will develop a wonderful equivalence. Now there are some benefits which generally the board derives. First of all, when the answer scripts come to us, all the answer sheets are given a fictitious roll number. FR जिसे हम कहते हैं काल्पनिक नंबर देते हैं. It takes a long process. But in digital evaluation, no board is required to put up any fictitious roll number. Automatically that while scanning it is removed. Now there will also that there will be a real-time tracking. What is this real-time tracking? The first is that we all establish evaluation center across the state. अब जब evaluation center वहाँ सेटअप करते हैं तो ज़्यादातर टीचर्स ऐसे अपने हिसाब से पहुँचते हैं. कोई पहुँचता ही नहीं है, कोई आंसर शीट लेके घर चला जाता है. तो it will enable कि all the teachers they reach in time. The moment the teacher logs into a computer to check answer scripts, उसकी attendance mark हो गई है. I'll tell you, we used to put up cameras at the evaluation center. अब हमने cameras हटा दिए हैं. And we saved around 1 crore rupees by doing away with the cameras. So that the moment teacher फिर दूसरा आपको टीचर का evaluation pattern पता लगता है. अगर 5 मिनट से ज़्यादा टीचर evaluate नहीं कर रहा है तो he will automatically log it out from the system. So you come to know कि which teacher is taking liberty while checking the answer scripts. So you know about the teacher's behavior in checking the answer scripts. You also come to know basically number of answer scripts checked at that point of time. Daily, every minute you can know how many answer scripts of which subject are checked today. So this is one more benefit you derive out of it. Before it also used to happen that answer scripts were misplaced. Sometimes the teacher used to take at home or while in transit they were lost. In our board also, let me edit very candidly, about 35 to 40 answer scripts of about around 8 lakh students they appear. They were lost. But after starting digital evaluation, not a single answer script was lost. It means the board achieved 100% accuracy in specifically counting and evaluating answer scripts. Now, again, the answer scripts, when the examination takes place, from the center, examination center, they are transported to the board. Afterward, fictitious roll number are put, and again, they are sent back to the evaluation center. And from there again they are brought back to the board. Let me tell you, this hassle is completely finished up. It's over. It's no more in existence. So it saves transportation cost as well as manpower cost to the board. Then when the teacher starts selecting or answering, it's an automatic selection of it. As I told before, that when the students reapply, there is an easy retrieval of answer scripts. And again, this time, when we found it, again we did it 2 times, and we found that exactly around 58 to 68% that revelations have dropped. The children were, or the students were satisfied. Now when the answer scripts are being checked online, there is a cross check also onto them. You can assign answer script cross checking by the second evaluator. Suppose it is being checked in state of Haryana at one place in Ambala, and you can assign it for rechecking somewhere who is sitting in Rohtak or in Sonipat. So basically, and the report would automatically come. So these are some of the benefits we derived of it. और एक सबसे बड़ी बात है कि unfair means cases बहुत होते हैं. Now students generally have detected all the unfair means cases even while checking the answer sheets. When they are scanned, आजकल तो बच्चे बड़े मारती हैं, कोई 500 का नोट लगा देना, साहब मैं पास हो जाऊं तो हनुमान जी का प्रसाद बंटवा देना, या सर 2100 मैं लगा रही हूँ भंडारा में दे देना, मेरी शादी हो जाएगी, पास हो जाऊंगी तो. अब वो सारे पैसे जो हैं, जो एवेलेटर्स के पास वहाँ सेंटर में जाते थे, वो सारे बोर्ड में ही रह जाते हैं. आई टोल्ड मैं कल इसमें कि यू कैन हैव अ पार्टी फंड फॉर दिस और यू कैन go ahead accumulating such money. What is happening is, we understand the child psychology. The child wants to pass. He is using unfair means. But let me tell you, after this all is in the board, we have not made any unfair means cases. Our work is to promote children, to guide them, to motivate them, to inspire them, rather than going for unfair means cases. What's more is that the Board of School Education Haryana is working on artificial intelligence now, and specifically reading the answer scripts. We all know that कि बहुत सारा टीचर का मूड स्विंग होता है while checking the answer scripts. Sometimes घर से अच्छे मूड में आया है तो बच्चों को अच्छे अच्छे नंबर देकर पास कर देता है. कभी मूड स्विंग हो गया, खटपट हो गई, तो उसका सारा का सारा खामियाजा बच्चे को भुगतना पड़ता है, स्टूडेंट को भुगतना पड़ता है. वो थकता भी नहीं है. When you say AI, it doesn't tire. So this is how we are going with it, that AI will standardize the process across. One more share I like to share with you, that in Board of School Education Haryana we introduced question in alphanumeric code and QR code in the question paper. This was innovation, and I had presented it to win an innovation award for the board at Scotch Awards Innovations, and you'll be all glad to know, for this innovation, इसमें यह है कि अगर किसी बच्चे ने किसी सेंटर से भी क्वेश्चन पेपर को लीक किया या आउट किया, तो आफ्टर इट कम्स ऑन द सोशल मीडिया, विद इन 5 मिनट्स हम उस क्वेश्चन पेपर को डिकोड करके बता देंगे किस बच्चे का क्वेश्चन पेपर है, किस सेंटर से आउट हुआ, और विद इन 10 to 15 minutes, the flying squad will reach and catch the student as well as the invigilator from that room. For this, Board of School Education Haryana was awarded gold category out of Scotch Award, which is a prestigious national award at the center, and we got it on 13th of July. So with this, I wind up, and I feel specifically that digital evaluation will revolutionize the system of evaluation across the country and will help all the boards to be at par in the evaluation system, provided that the question paper also are at par. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
इस ज्ञानवर्धक प्रस्तुति के लिए धन्यवाद सर। अब मैं केंद्रीय माध्यमिक शिक्षा बोर्ड CBSE के अध्यक्ष श्री राहुल सिंह जी को आमंत्रित करती हूँ। आप 1996 बैच के बिहार कैडर के IAS अधिकारी हैं और वर्तमान में केंद्रीय माध्यमिक शिक्षा बोर्ड के अध्यक्ष के रूप में कार्यरत हैं। आपने भारत सरकार के कार्मिक और प्रशिक्षण विभाग में अपर सचिव के रूप में अपनी सेवाएं दी हैं। आपके पास सेवा संबंधी विषय, वित्त, सतर्कता, प्रशासन, सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी और अन्य कई क्षेत्रों में अकादमिक और व्यावसायिक पृष्ठभूमि का अनुभव है। आप NEP 2020 के लिए हितधारकों के बीच नीति समन्वय और प्रवर्तन के बीच के विषय में व्यापक अनुभव साझा करेंगे। जोरदार तालियों से सर का स्वागत करें। सर प्लीज़।
धन्यवाद गिरिजा, हटा दीजिए। So thanks to the department for affording this opportunity to me. I've heard my fellow panelists, and I'm seeing with some trepidation my cadre senior, respected Secretary School Education, Shri Sanjay Kumar ji, my colleagues Archana ji, Vipin, and I see lots of school principals over here. So I don't. No, that's it. Leave it. I know the principals would be in some trepidation. पता नहीं कौन सा बम हमारे सर के ऊपर गिरेगा equivalence के नाम पर. But don't worry. I think this is largely a brainstorming session on how to go about it. Yeah. छोड़ दीजिए. I see a few chairpersons of state boards as well, and the Parakh team from the NCRT, and the director NCRT as well in the audience. So equivalence, what does equivalence mean? So equivalence can mean several things. One is for migration from one so-called board to another board of education, maybe from the secondary education level, that includes higher secondary or senior secondary, to an institution of higher education, and finally for the government job market. These are where we would require to sort of understand and tackle this issue. So as we know, so there are more than 60 odd boards in the country, and so we have to establish equivalences. By and large, what do we say for a job, let's say for the civil services examination? A graduation in any discipline from a recognized Indian university, and so on and so forth. Even in universities, there are wide variety. Maybe for a university admission or a job role, we would say intermediate from a recognized board of education, and there we have a plethora of boards. So this is as far as, let's say, a job entry or a institution of higher education learning goes. So now when we come to more concrete terms, so equivalence is important, it has to be established, and there have to be mechanisms to establish it. Let's say that's the axiom that we all have accepted as the foundation, let's say. So then once we start to go ahead, so there will be three dimensions to my mind on which to look at this particular issue. The first is administrative, which is actually the simplest. whether this particular board has been established by an executive order or by fiat or by statute, or whether it's a legacy institution which has been coming in for a large number of years, or maybe just by practice it's been accepted and established. And then you add certain other conditions, that it should have an independent board, it should have a governing body which should be composed of eminent educationists in that sphere, and so on and so forth. It should have an independent, for example, examination unit for assessment and other things. So that's the easiest to say. So at that level, I would say, we talk about the administrative dimension, it is more about recognition, whether it's a valid board itself or not. But you're not yet talking about equivalences of whatever they are imparting to their students or those who pass out from their particular system. Then we come to the second dimension, that is the curriculum. Curriculum obviously includes pedagogy. When we come to the curriculum part of it, things start becoming a bit more difficult. Which curriculum should we all follow? Should the Sanskrit board follow the same curriculum as the CBSE, for example? Should the Madrasa Shiksha board follow the same curriculum? Maybe or it can be linguistic as well, in terms of regional identity. Would the Tamil Nadu School Education Board impart subject knowledge at the same level as, let's say, All India board like the CBSE or the ICSE? So things start getting a bit more complicated from here on. So what is the way out? So a good starting point, as has been suggested by Parak, or rather it's on the drawing board, but okay, so we don't know, so every board has to have a unique flavor. Why don't we start with the NEP as the bedrock and the NCF, SE as the, let's say, the base on which we go on and establish equivalences and in a way test children for competencies. So the next required step for that would, to my mind, be breaking down the NCF goals into well defined and easily understandable and comprehensible competencies. So they have to be broken down into competencies. So that's the first step. Then maybe teachers' qualifications and training, again that is a bit more difficult part, but in a way, in time I think we should reach there where we would have a uniformity in terms of teachers' qualifications and also the mechanisms for their training. Obviously there have to be some unique flavors to each board or each schema of study. And then so then there is finally what we call the credit framework, to which I will return towards the end of my speech or whatever we may call it. But already in this we have seen that there is diversity among school boards and also variation in the subjects. So when we go to subjects or even let's say the NCF goals, do we talk about all the subjects including language and social science, or do we only talk about STEM? So it has to be evaluated, and each of these decisions do have consequences. Do we want at least a student population which when comes out has a roughly uniform grounding in the STEM subjects, or do we also want to extend it to all the subjects? That would imply probably a bit more difficult consensus making exercise in that sense. I will just hold the thought about the credit framework for a bit. The next is assessment practices. How are we actually assessing our students, whether it be at the end of class 10th and 12th, which is the practice right now, or even at intermediate levels. So assessment as a tool for establishing equivalence, I think Jonas was speaking about it. So you drive equivalences using assessments or let's say uniform assessment practices. So I think this is being advocated by Parak. But again, when we talk about assessments, how deep do we go? So do we drive exact question sets, or do we drive only up to the competencies and then we let it at that? And then the question again comes in, which if we are saying assessments, then who is conducting the assessments? At the board, school year end, the school end examinations, so 10th and 12th end examinations, or even at the intermediate levels. What's the credibility of the institutions which are conducting these assessments? And if we are making these assessments in a way high stakes for the board as well, then we need to have probably extremely strong SOPs to be able to drive it, so that it is corrective rather than being punitive. So then, so the answer is, if you ask me how to establish equivalences, so the consensus, the first part is we have to establish equivalences. But when we go and look at it from the 3 dimensions, in a way, I have just reduced it to 3 dimensions, there will be several. Then we start seeing that there are complications and it's not so easily done as said. We have to have SOPs. We have to have a body, an independent body, which will be able to look at these issues in the long run and establish equivalences. One mechanism is the AIU, Association of Indian Universities, which looks at granting equivalences to certain boards and recognitions. But that is at its heart, it is a body which is meant for entry into the higher education system. It doesn't really probably have the expertise as yet to be able to look at the issue of boards. The second is Parak, or maybe we can just park the question again for the policy makers. We have to have an independent body where all the boards have equal access. Of them can actually participate and take decisions as to which form of equivalences would finally be applied or actually be practicable. So, as I said, we can't have a directory in a way set of principles which would only direct. It has to be corrective, supportive, in a way it has to be more corrective or supportive rather than punitive on individual school boards and the stakeholders. A very important question which would come in when we are looking at the issue of equivalences would be the open examination systems, open school examination systems, or the boards, whether it's the NIOS or various open school systems established in the various state governments. We are talking about pedagogy, teachers training and other things. So what is the exception to be carved out for such institutions? So my submission over here is that we can probably create a mechanism whereby the credit framework itself can work as a means to establish equivalences rather than forcing all institutions to come onto the same platform and have a body decide or direct. We can adopt the credit system with assessment practices, have the third party body, so the independent body which I was talking of, have the third party body evaluate the assessment practices and come up with the credits which can be awarded for a particular set of competencies in a particular board. So that means expanding the remit of the NCRF which is being visualized right now, which is for admission to higher education institutions. So expand the remit a bit more and then look at also the assessment practices. That would at the very least establish one mechanism of equivalences of the certifications which the boards are giving. Obviously other parts of this entire piece have to be also looked at, which include the curriculum. The questions still remain open. As I said, STEM, only STEM, no subject, all subjects including social science, then including languages, and those things, they remain open. But at least we have a starting point, and then we can decide how deep we go into this entire question of establishing equivalence. I think I will stop at this point, and I know there will be questions, and I see still some of our participants are in the Chintan mode, so I hope they come out of the Chintan and are able to fire questions at least. Have a good day. Thank you.
Now we open the floor for the questions.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful and mindful presentation, and thank you all for the enlightening presentations. We will now open the floor for a question answer session and panel discussion.
अब मैं सभी प्रतिभागियों से निवेदन करती हूँ कि वे इक्विवेलेंस ऑफ कैरिकुलम एंड असेसमेंट अक्रॉस ऑल द स्कूल बोर्ड पर अपने विचार, प्रश्न और अनुभव साझा करें.
Any questions?
सर नमस्कार, मैं शरद गोसावी, चेयरमैन महाराष्ट्र स्टेट बोर्ड. मेरा प्रश्न यादव सर जी को है.
Yeah, where is it?
Sir,
Yeah, please.
you are talking about digital evaluation.
Ji.
How much it costs and how do we do this works?
See, the cost of digital evaluation would come out after you negotiate with the parties. All right, but generally it is about 1 rupee 35 paisa per page.
Per page.
Per page. But you have to look into cost benefit, how it works it out. Like you save a lot on the other side also. Like when we put up fictitious roll numbers, we save on it, we save on transportation. And then ultimately when you weigh the cost benefit ratio, that goes in favor of the organization. It's an image building. It brings about qualitative assessment and higher level of satisfaction to all stakeholders, and you do justice to evaluation to students as well. So I'd say over the time you can build up your own system of scanning and have your own software where you will be able to save crores of rupees into evaluation also.
Sir, board is an autonomous body in Maharashtra.
Yeah.
From fees from students who have to do all things or administrative thing or all these things.
Ji.
We have practicer, examiner, then moderator, then chief moderator, and from custody to this our question paper, answer paper goes to schools, and teachers may evaluate this question paper, and then from moderator to come to our for scanning.
Yeah.
We have already UID number. We have no this such type of fake ID. We have UID number, barcode UID plus holocron.
This fictitious node number is a barcode only, which is put up by most of the boards. Generally, the manual pattern of evaluation is the same across the boards, and almost all boards are autonomous only. They survive on their own finances. I don't think any board may be getting any grant from the state government. So you have to work out your administration system, your finances and everything, and then if you find it is costly at the first time, go in for a limited evaluation, and later on build up your own system. You will be able to derive many benefits out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Rachel Philip. I'm from IIT Jodhpur. We have a Center for Education and Technology for Education. So in today's panel discussion, one thing I was noticing is that there's a lot of, when we talk about assessment also, there's a lot of, distrust, but distrust is a strong word, but the teacher, when we talk about the teacher, we encourage teachers to do innovative things in classrooms, and like we are also designing innovative teaching programs like the ITEP and so on. So that is on one hand, but on the other hand, the conversation on assessment is also about standardization. So if there are any thoughts by the panelists on this, that'd be great. I thought Dr. Bertling sort of gave us a way to look at that when we talk about how we can have a common framework of standards and also respecting the importance of context. I think that's also an important element to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question and these remarks. I really do think that, as mentioned also in my presentation, like the thinking about what the assessments are that can be used in the different scenarios where knowledge should be compared, and having frameworks where you really pick your battles. You really think about what needs to be measured, what can everybody agree on to be measured, and then measure those well. And I think one experience that I would like to share is that these things really take time. And I was positively surprised, but also to some extent really puzzled by the speed at which things in India work. And I think that's a compliment I'm making, but it's also something where I want to communicate that in Germany, in the US, internationally, these things take a lot of time. And to give you an example, for the NAEP, we start item development for the NAEP assessment roughly like 5 years before the assessment goes into the field. And doing the Common Core state standards in the US, that was like a decade-long process where really kind of people come together and discuss and refine. And so one thing that I would say about all the different challenges that you and others might experience, don't give up if it takes a little bit longer, and don't try to do it too fast, because it really takes time. And I trust that India can do it maybe faster than other countries, given what I've experienced, how fast in general I think things are moving here. But it's just a caution from my own experience that it takes time.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
May I? Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Sharbari Banerjee, Principal of Astor Public School, Noida Extension Branch. My question is to Rahul, sir. Being a resource person for CBSE, of late we've been talking about these credit points, marks a lot. But it is still pretty unclear to us whether these credit points will be based upon curricular subjects, non-curricular subjects, or will it be not at all any subject, any other thing apart from the subject academic curriculum? And will it be standardized by CBSE, or will the schools have the independence to standardize their own credit points or subjects or non-curriculum subjects? That's my question to you, sir.
Okay, I remember that I read one book by I.E. Irodov in class 12 when I was preparing for the IIT JEE. It was one of the toughest questions of Irodov, very similar to your question. So it's not yet finalized. So the short answer is the credit framework is not yet finalized. But ultimately, the institution of higher learning and the, let's say, the school board system, they have come together. Ultimately, the mechanism would be to accept based on the competencies and the level that the board has certified that competency to have been attained as per the let's say the 12 standard examination results, then those credits would be accepted into the higher education system. So at the brass tacks, it is this particular mechanism. Now what are the details, whether it will be academics? Right now the committee which was set up has talked largely about academic and skill subjects, where certifications are done by external sources, not within the school, but there is a feeling in certain quarters that certain non-academic skills also are non-skill skills. In that sense, they are also important attributes of growing up, and they may also be included. But I don't see as yet any firm decision on that. So we'll just wait for it. As soon as it's crystallized, I think all of us will be more clear on this. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we request, because there is a time limit, so we'll request Secretary Sir to conclude the session. Son.
Thank you, Anand. I would just want to say a few things. I think I would thank all the panelists for raising awareness on why do we need an equivalence in curriculum as well as assessment across all these school boards. Now, Parak has been entrusted with this job. Parak went around and they did quite a number of workshops across the countries, across the country in the different states. There are 69 boards. And of the 69 boards, first of all, we were a bit dismayed because we found that only half the boards actually participated in this conversation. More than 50% of the boards were not part of it, including some of the larger states. We would want all of them to be on board because what we are trying to do is something extremely important, and I guess a lot of people might have different views about it as to what does equivalence mean for curriculum as well as for assessment. Parak has come out with a document. They have put it in public domain. I would request that find some time, it's a voluminous publication, but find some time to go through it. It will give you a fair amount of idea as to what we are talking about. And please give us your suggestion because your suggestions are extremely important for us. I think at the end of the day, how would you tell them where the link is? Is it on the NCRT website? It's on the Parak website. In 1950, when the Constitution came, education was part of the state. It was a part of the state list. And only in 76 it came on the concurrent. Different boards evolved differently across the country. And I find that there are 8 or 9 states where there are 2 boards, one for 10th and one for 12th. And if you look at the results for class 10 and class 12th, again you will find that even within that particular state, there is not much of an equivalence between how children are doing in class 10 and how they are doing it in class 12. The boards are not speaking to each other. So this is a serious issue. If you look at Meghalaya, the pass percentage is 59 for class 10, whereas for Kerala it is 98. Now imagine if you are a child and if you are having to migrate along with your parents, it is going to affect you from going from one state to the other. We are worried about it. We would want that we should create a platform which is easy for a child to move from any part of the country to any. I think a simple example you can do is when you go back is that there are a lot of examinations which are centralized. So there is CIVET, there is NEET, there is JEE Main, there is JEE Advanced, there is CLAT. What percentage of state school boards are actually children are getting into these exams? Do this calculation. We did it for NEET, for last year data. And we found that different states have different access to this examination. So at the end of the day, if you ask yourself this question, are we being fair to our children if they are having disproportionate or lesser access to these exams? We need to create a platform where children from different states have some kind of an equal access to this. If you do not have it, then we need to think about it. There are several things, but I would say that different state school boards should actually do this exercise to find out to what extent your children are getting into CIVET. NEET and JEE Advanced and Mains will give you about the STEM equivalence. But CIVET will also give you equivalence about other subjects. CLAT will also give you. So if you actually were to see number of children who have come into these exams per lakh population or maybe per 10,000 of students who appeared for it, you will find a number which you'll be able to compare across the boards. In NEET, we found that
On one side, we have CBSE, which has the highest access to to medical exam. And on the lowest side, we have NEOS. Now, is Dr. Saroj here? No, sure. Okay. Now, I was looking at NEOS results. And we found that in NEOS, the pass percentage is in the 50s. Now, if I am in Kerala, where the state school board gives me a pass percentage chance of 98%, and I would ask a child to join NEOS, would that person join NEOS or would take the exam for state school board? These are real issues which need to be looked into. But to begin off with, have a look at the Parak report, go through it. I think Indrani, you would be more than happy to answer if you have any questions in your mind. But come back to us with your comments because these are very, very important issues for us. Thank you.
धन्यवाद सर। आपके मार्गदर्शन एवं ज्ञानवर्धक अनुभवों को साझा करने के लिए मैं माननीय श्री संजय कुमार जी, सचिव स्कूल शिक्षा एवं साक्षरता का हृदय से धन्यवाद अर्पित करती हूँ। हम सारगर्भित चर्चा एवं ज्ञानवर्धक प्रश्नों के लिए आप सबके आभारी हैं। हम अपने सभी माननीय वक्ताओं, संचालक और प्रतिभागियों को उनके मूल्यवान योगदान के लिए हार्दिक धन्यवाद अर्पित करते हैं। धन्यवाद।